Welcome to Untamed Blossoms, the podcast where we celebrate the untamed journey of womanhood. Here, we tell the stories of incredible women who have embraced their authenticity, inspiring others to do the same.
From entrepreneurs to artists, activists to adventurers, we share triumphs, challenges, and the beauty of self-discovery. These are the stories of women blazing their own trails, breaking free, and blooming unapologetically.
Join us to connect, be inspired, and celebrate the power of women's stories. Together, let's rewrite the rules and embrace our wildness.
Welcome to Untamed Blossoms. I'm your host, Amanda Riley.
And I'm Christy Riley. Welcome to the pod.
Big full moon day.
Full moon. Oh boy.
It has been interesting, to say the least. We've had a couple guests today and many recording sessions.
Many recording sessions and technical difficulties, some doggy difficulties.
Any kind of difficulty you could imagine, we've had them.
Yes. And I'm, you asked earlier if I felt the full moon. Yes.
Yes.
So much so. Things are a little chaotic, crazy, insane still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good news is we're having a full moon ceremony tonight, which should help clear some of this energy.
I hope so. Please, God.
We have an altar full of crystals.
Yes.
Gonna do some
Full of
journaling.
lovely ladies that are coming. Yeah. And
It'd be wonderful.
It's going to be a great event. Yeah, I can't wait.
We're going to have these events every single month for the full moon. So
yes, please come join us.
Please come.
If you're in the Columbus, Ohio region.
Yep. We will create a reoccurring Facebook event for this, but just know any full moon, unless something happens where we both happen to be out of town, we will have these events just again to give that space back to you to build community, and then also to spend some time reflecting and journaling, all those type of things. So
yes, I can't wait. It couldn't come at a better time for me than today.
Yeah, you're like, wow.
I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, so I can't wait. Yeah.
It's gonna be great. We now also have our camera set up.
Yay, new camera, new studio, new equipment.
Yeah. So
I feel so official.
I know. Thank you, Noah Dowdy.
Noah is such a sweet angel. Amanda's husband bought us a new camera so that we can start putting everything on YouTube. So although we didn't get to record our actual guests today, their interviews, we will start the next time getting them on YouTube. So it won't just be our intros, it'll be the whole full-fledged deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is a big deal.
Totally.
And today we talked to my neighbor, Jackie, my 87-year-old neighbor. Y'all, if you guys could see this lady, not a day over 70.
No, truly.
She comes with such a young energy. I loved her from the moment I met her. And she has so much life that she's lived.
Totally.
And what a cool lady, a cool story. And I think the biggest thing I took away from her life story is just don't stop learning.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to try new things and to push yourself.
Yes.
And I think something that I took away with her is just like not being complacent and this is how my life is. You know what I mean? Or this is how things always have been. So let me continue. I just think she's an adventurer at heart.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a really great interview and we can't wait for you guys to hear her. And she's going to actually give us some of her artwork, her photography to put up in the barn. So we're so excited for that.
Wait until you see it. It is beautiful.
Gorgeous. Like the stuff that she is doing is really, really beautiful. And she's finding her creative side. Yeah. It's really great.
Totally.
We had a great time talking to her. We hope you guys enjoy it.
Enjoy.
See ya.
All right. Welcome, Jackie, to the pod. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you, Amanda.
So excited to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Jackie is my neighbor, and when Stan met her, he told me, Jackie's going to be your new best friend. Jackie has amazing energy. I loved her right away. I bamboozled her in the middle of the morning one day with the grandbabies because they were desperate to go visit her horsies, and I didn't want to be the weird neighbor that just wandered on somebody's land and was messing with their horses without permission.
That
So
does sound like something you would do normally.
listen, it's not out of my character necessarily, but I was trying to be a good neighbor, like plus I didn't want the babies to get hurt if one of them was possibly,
Sure.
not great, or if you were like, hey, stay away from that one. I know just enough about horses that some of them could be cantankerous depending on what's happened to them. So
Our horses are very gentle, although they're an animal that size can be unpredictable.
right.
So you were smart to
Yeah.
warn them to.
Yeah. Jackie was sweet. She came out in her nightgown and was like, oh my gosh, yes. Okay. Go ahead. This one's got diabetes, though. Don't feed him sweets. But he loves carrots and have a great time and chatted with us and was
Well,
kind.
I have to tell the audience that you brought me a freshly baked loaf of bread early Christmas morning. I could not believe it that you were that sweet and that ambitious and
The bread that you guys make is so good.
it
It's
is
so
delicious.
tasty.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
it's a fast bread. It's, my husband I would love to take credit. He loves to bake it more than me.
Really?
Yeah, and he loves sourdough too, but sourdough takes days. It takes days to make.
Yeah.
And he found a quick bread because I was like, I don't want to buy bread in the grocery store anymore because I'm so sensitive to all preservatives. They make me really, really itchy everywhere.
Oh.
So if there's a preservative in anything, a cracker, bread, I will get itchy. And Amanda knows. I'll start my head, my belly will start itching, all kinds of parts. So I was like, you need to make our bread. I need you to come up with a recipe. And ever
Was
since
that a quick bread?
that was a quick bread.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Wow.
that was a quick bread. So it's got 2 rises, but quick rises, set for 30 or 40 minutes, an hour, and then fold it, do it again, rise another hour, and then bake. So
You don't have to knead it.
not really.
Yeah, I make a bread like that you don't have to knead,
Yeah.
and you bake it in a Pyrex bowl, and it
Oh
forms
yeah.
a big round
Yeah.
loaf. It's really good.
Yeah.
I've been
Peasant
watching
bread.
a lot of bread making videos lately,
Really?
and I really want to get into it, but it just seems like so much. So I feel like a quick
It
thing would be
isn't.
better.
It's
It
really
isn't.
easy. It's really easy. I do feel like this one that Stan makes is really easy to do, and it's tasty. And he adds a little tablespoon of honey in it, so it's a little sweet,
Mm-hmm.
but not high fructose corn syrup, which is in all the bread in the stores. And
Yeah.
we use non-GMO flour. And I was really freaked out about the ingredients of bread you buy in the grocery store mostly
Really?
is what led us down this path.
Okay.
So now he's got a really great bread that I absolutely love. So I was like, well, I'm glad you're baking bread. But I told him the day before, I'm like, I really want to take the neighbor's bread for Christmas. And he was like, okay. And so yeah, we tag team that.
Yeah, and you took some to Mark and Diane too.
Yep.
She brought you some rolls?
She brought me rolls the next weekend maybe or something like that for New Year's. Like, yeah, because we were getting ready to make a New Year's dish. So she brought me rolls and
She makes good rolls.
And I was like, this is where it's at. I can tell you that in all the time that I lived in suburbia, nobody brought me no damn bread.
Oh, really?
I would love to know. I don't know if Christy knows, but I would love to know when you moved in next door and anything else about your adventures here in Westerville.
I moved in 2013. So that was, oh my gosh, 11 years ago, 12 years ago. My husband and I bought this property 25 or 30 years ago, 5 acres. And there had been a barn on the property. There was an old tractor here and a lot of things that we had to clear away, a lot of rubbish. And my husband wanted to build a building for an office building for himself and a fellow that he worked with from Upper Arlington, and also a space for his toys. And he has a bobcat and a tractor and mowers and all of that stuff. So, and my son had just started working in New Albany, and he had been living in Jerome. So it was big enough that he could build a house on the front part of the property. And so we started that project, and the back part where the building was going to be needed to be, we needed extra dirt there. So they started getting dirt and digging a pond. And so the dirt from the pond raised the building spot for the barn. So he got the barn all finished and the office space finished and furnished. And the gentleman that he was working with from Upper Arlington decided that he didn't want to come over here to work. So it was never used as an office building, and I turned it into an apartment.
Nice.
And we would celebrate holidays and special occasions there. Youth groups from church would use it and so forth. So about, it's been probably 15 years ago now, we deeded the property to our son, who lives on the house in the front part of the property, with the understanding that my husband and I would have a life estate in the barn, that we could live there rent free. And so that's the way that shook out. At the time my husband and I were living in Gehenna, we had a family partnership where my husband would purchase real estate for the family. And we had 185 acres up on 3637. And we decided that we're not going to develop this. Let's sell it, get rid of it. So it was for sale. And in the meantime, my sister, who lived in Seattle, came down with pancreatic cancer. And our partnership was 2 generals, my husband and I, and 3 passive partners, our 3 sons. Okay. So I was a general partner. So I was, I knew everything that was going on with the partnership and the investments. So my sister had gone into the hospital. I went out to be with her, and it was her final trip to the hospital, and she passed away on Thanksgiving. And while I was out there, we sold the property on 3637. So when I got back, I stayed for her funeral, and then I came home and discovered that the sale money from the property in up on 3637 had not been entered into the bank, and I couldn't find it. And so I started kind of doing a little investigation on my own and found out that he had opened another account in another bank and had deposited quite a bit of money in that account without telling me where it was. And this was kind of the culmination of a lot of things that were going on. I had not recognized that he was in stages of dementia, but this was the final straw as far as I was concerned. So I immediately hired an attorney, had that a stop put on any transactions with that money that was in the bank whatsoever, and filed for divorce after 56 years of marriage. So, well, this was before all of that. He was colorblind, and he went to 3 auctions of Oriental rugs, three days in a row, and spent $250,000 on Oriental rugs. And he was colorblind and didn't see what colors he was buying.
Oh gosh.
That would have been my final straw, honestly.
Well, that was part of it. That was part of it.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Did you know at the time that he was suffering of dementia, or was this
he
just?
he did not acknowledge it.
Yeah.
He was also bipolar. So it was a bad combination.
Yeah.
And
so this was just him skimming funds, really. He was conscious. He knew enough. This just wasn't Oh, I have dementia. I forgot that I was putting it in the
Oh,
wrong
no,
bank
no,
account.
no.
This was intentional.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was very intentional.
Yeah.
He had intended to open a store
Mm,
and sell these drugs at a store.
I see.
So, and he also wanted to buy a gymnasium that had just gone out of business in Newark, and gave the guy $10,000 as a down payment on that. And I happened to be in um, Montana and found out that he had done that. And I called the man and said, "There's no money to cover that check, and my husband has dementia, so we stopped that
Yeah.
cold."
Yeah.
But
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
anyway, I had to save some of our money, and the only way I could do it was to divorce him. I filed for divorce, and I moved out here, and I didn't know how unhappy I was until I wasn't unhappy any longer.
Yeah.
And I love it out here. I love country living. I hate to see civilization marching this way, but it is. And I asked my son if somebody offered him $1 million for this place, would he sell? And he said, "Not as long as you're alive." So bless his heart.
Well, and you've created quite the sanctuary back there. I will say that
Oh,
you
thank
know
you.
it looks just like a, a barn from the outside on the one side, and then you go on the other side, and she's created this beautiful sanctuary of flowers and trees, and it's just really really beautiful back there.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very
Thank you.
beautifully curated, and it's clearly her happy space where she spends time up there. So yeah. So let's back up.
Okay.
I want to hear about Jackie. Where was Jackie born?
Okay.
Parents, grandparents, take us back for a little bit. Tell us a little bit.
I was born in Indianapolis, Indiana,
Okay.
in 1937, at the end of the Depression, and I have told you a little bit about my grandparents. They had a little 10-acre farm south of Indianapolis, and they had a victory garden where they raised their own vegetables, and they had cattle, or a cow or two, where they were able to get milk, and chickens for eggs and meat. And during the Depression, they had a calf that they had purchased for meat, and the calf got into the grate and foundered, and that was the end of the calf died, and so they had no meat that winter.
Wow.
So it was a rough time. But anyway, my parents lived in Southport, which was just a little bit down the road from my grandparents' farm. My father worked in a greenhouse for a while with working with roses, and he would come home with scratches all over him from the thorns. And they had a dog, an Irish setter, and she got rabies. And so my father, because of the scratches all over him from the roses, had to have those horrible rabies shots in his stomach. So that was, I think, before I was alive. My first memory was in Southport, Indiana, and they used to have something called curtain stretchers, and they were um, oblong square frames, or rectangular frames with sharp needles all along the edges, and people had sheer curtains, and when they washed them, they would hang them on these stretchers on the needles. And so then they whip them off of there and hang them up, and they were all like pressed.
Right.
My first memory in life was falling into that curtain stretcher.
Oh gosh.
No.
Yeah, that wasn't pleasant.
I bet not. I bet not. Yeah.
What'd
your parents do for a living?
I'm sorry?
What'd your parents do for a living?
My father was an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mother, before she married my dad, worked in a department store.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be a store called Ellis Ayres in Indianapolis, and she worked there.
Yeah.
But after she married my dad, she was a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And she had another child, a girl from another marriage, a previous marriage, and that was my sister, who unfortunately passed away when she was 18 from leukemia. And that was before they knew how to deal with leukemia.
Right.
I was 9. So, yeah.
That must have been hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many siblings did you have?
2
Two.
siblings. Mm-hmm.
So one half sister, one full sister.
Mm-hmm. She was 9 years younger than I.
Oh,
So
wow.
there were 9
Wow.
years between. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of
That's
stretched
kind of
out
unheard
there.
of, like, in that day, you know? Kind of
Yeah.
got to have them quick and
Yeah.
got it over with usually.
No,
That's
she
staggering.
stretched them out.
Nice.
So.
Well, you end up with some help. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sister can watch you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us after you said that you were an athlete. Was that in high school?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And junior high.
Junior high,
I
high
was
school.
a competitive swimmer.
Yeah.
I was backstroke and freestyle.
Yeah.
And I lived in a little summer resort area called Chautauqua, which was really modeled after Chautauqua, New York.
Mm.
And they had a big park with picnic tables and trees, and there was a river that went through it, and it kind of there was a soda shop, where you could go in and sit at the table, and there were jukeboxes and all of that, and a duck pin bowling alley, and a swimming pool, and tennis courts, and a skating rink, and it's just really fun. So, and then these cabins that church groups could rent in the summertime and have, you know, get-togethers on the grounds. The swimming pool was 2 blocks from my house, so
Okay.
I was there from the time it opened in the morning until dark, and so it was easy to swim and dive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so did that lead into any collegiate? Did you end up going off to college? What happened after that? Did you swim
I did go to
college?
college for 2 years,
Yeah.
and I didn't finish, unfortunately. I got married instead. I met my husband, who was a senior when I was a sophomore. So no, I didn't do any swimming in
Yeah.
college. I was a cheerleader in college. I went to OU, and 2 of my sons went to OU.
Oh wow.
So yeah,
What year was that when you went to college?
I graduated high school in '55.
Okay.
So I was there from 55 through 57.
Did you notice that it was like you had mostly male colleagues in college, or did you feel like it was getting more even where there were many other females there? Or
Yeah, it was pretty well evenly divided then. Yeah,
yeah.
it was a
That's
good
good.
time.
I think you look back at that time and you make an assumption. I know I make an assumption of like, oh, I don't know very many women that went to college back then, but that's my own, right? My own perception, my own family and their, background and education.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, that period was before my time.
okay.
That would be in my mother's time.
Yeah.
Do you wish you'd have stayed in school? What prompted you? Like, you said I quit because I got married.
Mm-hmm.
Was that because you were wanting that he wanted to have children right away, and you didn't feel like you could go to school and have kids at the same time, or do you remember what that?
Oh, I was in love.
I don't need
No,
school.
I didn't want to have children right away, and unfortunately I got pregnant right away. Our first child was born 9 months after we were married. Yeah,
Like we
so
were having a great time.
I was a young mom.
Yeah. I just think that's an interesting time still, right? Like I didn't. That's why I wondered if you quit. Like that's not a thing I think in our generation where we feel like we have to have dual incomes and like there's really not a choice even if you fall in love, right? Like you don't just get married and stop going to college. You finish because you got to work, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that, like the decision making of, do you remember even, or that was just the thing, like I'm not going to go to school anymore.
You stayed home and took care of the house and raised the kids, and that was in fact working was out of the norm back then.
Right.
It was more staying home and raising a family, and
Because you made
Ozzy
that
and
statement
Harriet.
like we would just like our generation would just be like, yeah, because I found love and I got married, so I quit school.
Yeah,
Like that would be a normal like.
Mhm.
Of course,
Yeah.
that's what we did,
Yeah.
right? And I'm over here like, but why? Right? Like, but why? Like, tell me about the whys, you know? And so there wasn't really a why. It was just that's what you were.
That's what you did.
That was what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was unusual for a woman to go to work
Right.
after marriage, and then
Right.
during those days.
Yeah.
So,
and you said you regret not finishing your degree? You wish you had to finish it
I
in
wish I
some
had
ways?
finished.
Yeah.
What
I
were
wish I
you
had.
in school for? What were you studying?
Interior design.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
That doesn't surprise me looking at her.
no.
Just the outsides of her stuff over there. I've not seen the inside, but I can tell you that doesn't surprise me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's quite the creative.
Yeah, I have always been creative.
Yeah.
I like to paint, but I'm not a very good drawer. So-
Yeah.
I'm the same, and I'm like, is there a paint by number I can do? I would be
Yeah.
great at that. I love the active painting, but I'm not I'm the same, not a good drawer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And I don't have the patience to sit down and practice. I'm sure if I practiced, I
Yeah.
could probably be
Yeah.
decent. Not good, but decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I should try watercolors together. That's
Oh,
I love watercolors, but I have to be looking at something. When one of my daughters were in labor, her other sister and I were trying to pass the time, and she's just recently gotten into art big time. And so she's like, "I brought these little watercolors, Mom," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll give it a whirl, no problem." And it was terrible. And I was like, "This is really hard."
It is hard.
And then she showed me a picture, and I was like, "Okay." And I replicated the picture.
You're
And
kidding.
I realized that I could do it if I had some sort of, but I had to watch somebody do it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And as soon as I watched somebody's technique, I was like, oh, okay, now I understand how this sort of works.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if we just need a class or two, and then we would be okay at it, maybe, or at least good enough that we wouldn't mind sitting down and messing with it.
I'm going to tell you something.
What?
I tried to learn watercoloring. Okay. Painting, water painting. Point is, everyone around me was like, oh, yeah, picked up brushes. We're so beautiful. Oh, here's this picture of this cup. Like, this is so easy. I'm like, okay. They ended up calling my painting the blood forest because I tried to do a sunset. And it looked like the sky was bleeding. And they're like, well, maybe it's not for everyone. So all I'm saying is sometimes some people can't do certain things.
Listen, I'm totally okay with not being able to do it. I'm just saying.
Well, it sounds like you caught on.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's a whirl, I have to take a spin at it. That's all me.
Oils or acrylics I can handle. Watercolor.
I know, they're unpredictable. That's what I love about them.
That's all right.
Until you have a blood forest on your hands. Suddenly people are afraid of you,
Okay, so you are wildly in love now, pregnant, having babies earlier than you'd hoped, but you're in for the ride.
My husband was he was a football coach.
Okay.
In high school, and we lived in started in Mansfield Senior High, and then we moved to Athens, and he coached Athens High School, and then we moved to Toledo, and he coached Toledo Libby. And then he was offered the college job with Toledo University of Toledo. And he decided to get out of coaching because we were starting to raise a family and coaching wasn't paying what they're getting now.
Right.
So he got into life insurance sales and was a natural salesman. He was really, really good at it. And was quite successful at it.
Nice.
So
good.
We made a home in Gahanna for a number of years, and that's how we ended up in this area.
Yeah. Did you ever go back to a corporate job or anything like that?
Just for fun, I worked at the Hyatt Hotel downtown.
Yeah.
And I worked in the Nani modeling agency for a number of years.
Tell us about your modeling career. so fascinated.
I was on a teen board when I was a teenager with Reich's, which was a department store in Dayton, Ohio. I grew up south of Dayton in Chautauqua, as I said. And then after I was married, I worked for LaSalle's department store in Toledo and did a lot of modeling for them. But they used to have tea rooms in department stores, and ladies would go shopping and they would get all dressed up and wear hats and gloves and
go for tea
and go for lunch.
Oh, got ya.
And the department stores, these tea rooms were in department stores, and so we would show clothes during the lunch hour. And it was really fun because we would walk around the tables and explain what we had on and what department it was from and what sizes it came in and the price and so forth. And you got to meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was fun.
That's
it was
cool.
really fun.
That's a lot of fun, yeah.
And then we had fashion shows, and I actually modeled for Valentino when he was just starting out. Yeah.
That's crazy.
The most gorgeous clothes I've ever had on my body.
Oh, I bet.
Just beautiful.
Wow.
So,
Sounds beautiful.
when we left Toledo, I would go back once a year for their big show.
Yeah.
And so that was it.
Isn't it interesting how different department stores are today?
I know.
I mean, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that type of atmosphere in a department store.
It was wonderful. It was very friendly and warm, and people were enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
My mother-in-law loves department stores, and she always talks about when she used to go with her mom and her grandmother. And I just always thought to myself, but it's a store. Like, I couldn't. But now the way you're explaining it, I can maybe see how that would be like an outing.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
It
was.
Wow. Yeah. The Lazaruses used to be that way in the day. Like one of my first
did.
jobs and coming out of high school and at the end of high school was working at Lazarus. And we were out of that phase, but just barely. But there was an old space where there used to be the spot where the cafe and the restaurant was.
Yeah.
They converted it, but it was
colonial room, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
so it's just it was a cool, like it was past our time where you're like, what was this for?
Yeah.
But I just think that's really cool. It's a totally different thing. And I also think about that, like if your kids are off to school or you don't have children yet, and socially, what do you do as women, right? Like. Mm-hmm. And that was their social outlet, really, is to go, not going to bars and drinking all day, but you can go to Lazarus and have tea
a nice lunch
and hang out, the ladies' lunch.
Yeah. We're going to bring it back.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I had a couple of appointments this morning, and I stopped at Chicken Salad.
Yeah.
Oh, the chicken salad place,
Yeah, to get lunch, and I hadn't been there for a long time, and I was sitting there by myself eating my lunch, and 4 ladies from my church came and sat in the booth right next to me. So
that's awesome.
It was almost a tea room.
The ladies were lunching.
Yes.
The ladies were lunching.
Yeah.
So was church a big part of your growing up and then your adulthood? Like, did you?
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't. My parents, although they were certainly Christian parents, they were not big churchgoers.
Okay.
So as a result, I didn't go to church. I am currently going to Central College Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
My husband, even though my husband and I were divorced in 2013, I still continued to take care of him. I would lay out his medication for him, and he got to the point where he could no longer drive. We had to take his keys away, and I found Inniswood Village and moved him into senior living over there, and he lived independently for about a year, and I realized that he really needed more help than senior living. And I would bring food to him, and he wouldn't eat, and it was becoming really bad. So I moved him into assisted living. So he passed away in 2018, and my old pastor from Good Samaritan Church in Gahanna, he's a retired pastor that helps at Central College. And so I had my former husband's memorial service at the chapel with our old pastor. And I had asked for refreshments after the memorial service. And the ladies of the church laid out a huge meal. I was expecting cookies and lemonade. And I was so impressed. This is a ministry of the women of the church that after services there, they provide all this food. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try that church because I didn't have a church at that point. I am so blessed to have fallen into the community of that church. It's just wonderful. I had lung cancer last year, and I can't tell you the help that I got from the ladies of that church visiting me and bringing me food and taking me to doctor's appointments and uh, appointments at the James. And if I needed help, they were there.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
that's rare.
Yeah.
That is truly rare.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's what we talk about a lot of the time is just how important community is. And I think
absolutely.
as time goes on, community becomes less and less, and you know your neighbors less and less.
Mhm.
And to have a community within a church or any group is just so wonderful and supportive.
It
And
is.
it makes a huge difference in your quality of life, I think.
It
Huge.
surely does. When I was a member of Good Samaritan Church, we had the same type of community, and in fact, I'm part of a prayer group that has been together for 40 plus years. We've raised our children together, and we started out with 12 members, and we're down to 8 now. And I'm the healthiest one of the group. Sorry, ladies.
Wasn't hard to keep up with Jackie over here, y'all.
I'm in a book club with my sister-in-law, my husband's sister. And before that, I had never really been a part of a group like that in my adult life, you know.
Mhm.
And it was so wonderful to be around a group of women who all had different insights and backgrounds and all, you know what I mean? You learn so much. And that's what we try to create with our podcast too, is having women sharing their stories and just talking.
Mhm.
You can learn so much
Right.
by just
You
listening.
can. Yeah.
Totally.
And just
Absolutely.
showing up for each other, you know, just showing
Mhm.
up for each other. Our
Holding
previous
space.
guest just now was once she just started learning how to play the piano, and she really wants to get a bunch of beginning learning, new learners of an instrument together, women's band, and like
Yeah.
for them to perform.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Of course, we're gonna help her do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
like that's so much fun. You can come and perform the next time we have a dance party, you know. So
Yeah.
I think that we need to hold each other up. You know,
Absolutely.
we need to support each other. We need to be there
Absolutely.
for each other, and that I do believe 100% that energy comes back to you. That's
Mhm.
godly energy that comes right back to you tenfold. You know, so
Absolutely.
being there for other humans is really
Yeah.
the way it needs to be.
Yeah.
So going back a little bit, how was motherhood for you? How did you experience that? What kind of help and resources did you have? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, as I said, I got pregnant immediately.
Yeah.
And my husband was a football coach at the time in Mansfield. Birth was uneventful. I mean, he was a good sized baby, 7.5 pounds, no, 8.5 pounds. And we lived in a walk up apartment, a 1 bedroom apartment. Because he was busy with coaching and teaching, I had no help. My parents were in Dayton and I was in Mansfield, so they weren't close enough to really help. And I didn't have any problems really.
Yeah.
He was a good baby, and
You didn't have a lot of support though, really, where you were.
no,
Did
I
you have a
didn't.
lot of friends, or
Not really.
it was probably
No.
fairly lonely, I would assume. Did you have
Mhm.
friends that from college or anything that you were in touch with on the
No.
phone, or
No, not really.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. No, it was kind of lonely actually. Yeah.
Imagine so.
And then we moved to Wilmington, and I got pregnant again, and that was 2 years after the first was born. Jack was the first, and Mark was 9.5 pounds
Oh.
and broke my tailbone
Oh.
in the birth process. So I went home to my mom so she could take care of me and the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark
Yeah.
lives next door here.
Right.
And he, from the very beginning, wanted to stay up and socialize at night. He is the same way now.
They show up the way they are, Jackie. They show up the way they are. Yep.
Yeah, he was a happy baby, but he wanted to be up
At
talking
night.
and playing and cooing and all of that in the middle of the night. And
A mother of two by herself, you're like, go to sleep.
I was with my mom then.
Yeah.
Because she was taking care of me. I couldn't do anything because of broken tailbone. So anyway, he was a good baby. And then 10 years later, I had Trent when I went off of the pill, and that he was the last one.
Yeah.
So, I'm done.
Right. Was he intended or was he?
No. Actually, none of them were. Truthful.
I can relate. I love them all, but only one of them was of my four. Don't understand.
Unplanned, but wanted.
Loved, yeah.
Loved.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So,
when did you start getting into more of like the creative side of things? So I got the awesome opportunity to see some of your photography, which is unbelievable.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
I'm hoping to turn the studio into Jackie's studio. How much she's going to make me pay for all those photos.
Oh, lots of money.
Lots of money. To put them up.
Well, as I say, I was an art major in college, fine arts, and then I wanted to go into interior design. But I left school after 2 years, so I didn't go there. I've always enjoyed the creative arts, and now I'm into flower arranging and have been for 30 plus years. I do competitive flower arranging. I like flower shows that are judged, and I'm a flower show judge myself. So it's fun that the designs I do are not something that you would see in a home. They're kind of far out. And,
I love that.
I know, me too. I'm so excited.
Different, and I belong to creative arrangers, which are arrangers that's what we do. We're not, I mean, some of us are into gardening also and to horticulture, but we like to study design in flower arranging. So.
Wow, that's incredible.
Thank you.
So you were doing that, and then you decided, I'm also going to take photos of these amazing things. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, I know camera phones are excellent, but those are gorgeous. So what made you kind of go into that more?
When I discovered that the capabilities of the iPhone camera, I started seeing things that I had not noticed before. Details in nature that were incredibly interesting to me. I'm a believer in the Creator and God and Jesus Christ. And when I see things up close, like fractals in the center of a daisy, or I have a picture of a dandelion puff with ice on it that looks like diamonds. If you look closely at things, it is mind-boggling. The detail and the beauty and it's just spectacularly gorgeous. I just can't tell you what a thrill I get out of seeing things up close like that. Yeah. And I have 10,000 photographs on my cell phone, many of which are trash.
Not the
ones we saw, y'all.
I want to put them together in a book um, mainly for my own family, because they'll never see all the photographs in my cell phone. And my grandmother started this whole thing with me, with taking me into her perennial garden. And then my mother continued teaching me about nature. And my grandmother once said, she held up a flower and she sniffed it, and then she looked at the center of the flower and she said, "How can anyone looking at all the beautiful flowers, a set of beautiful colors in the center of a flower, not believe in God?" And that's what I'm seeing when I take my close-up photographs.
Yeah.
I can see the hand of the creator in my macro photography.
Yeah.
And it gives me such satisfaction and such reassurance of his love and his care for us.
Yeah. Wow. Well, they're
Stunning.
absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Seriously, putting them up in the barn. It's so kismet because I have these two mirrors that I have out here. They keep falling down. They keep falling off the wall. They're heavy as hell, and every attachment I put up to hang them has pulled out of the frame. Every one, and now it's busted to where I can't put them back together anymore. And I'm realizing it's dangerous, right? Like I can't leave them up there and have the babies running around, right? So
No.
like it's gonna hurt somebody. And
Yeah.
and my babies are a little feral while they're here. You know what I mean? Like they're feral because I let them be feral, and it's the way they should be out here. Yeah.
Pictures.
Little feral kids. It's great. They
Oh,
don't
feral
learn-
kids.
Feral kids. They're all over the place and they're wild and they never wear shoes and socks. It's great. They're just like me when they're out here and never wear shoes and socks. A little feral. We may not have clothes on. Underwear is optional. Mostly in our jammies all day. This is how we roll.
Yeah. Why not?
But I'm like, these mirrors are gonna fall down. And I just told Amanda this morning, I'm like, we have to come up with something else to go on these walls. I don't know if we put a whole bunch of vintage mirrors up everywhere. Like whatever. I don't know what to do. And then Jackie shows up with 10,000 ideas of what we should put for that wall. And I couldn't be more excited.
Well, you pick out the ones you want.
I would love that. I would absolutely adore that. Yes. I'm not
I
kidding.
would be very flattered to have my pictures hung.
Oh, it'll look beautiful in there. Can't wait.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Coming soon. Coming soon. by Galentine's time. That's my goal. I'm gonna stay.
We're doing a floral
yes
reading with Sarah that day.
Yeah.
So that'd be perfect.
Yeah. We'll have it all up before Galentine's event for sure.
After all the experiences that you've had and now leaning into the creative side of things, what are some lessons that you feel like you learned along the way that you would love to share with other people listening? Like, what are some core things that you want them to know?
Oh my goodness. I guess go with your dreams.
Yeah.
If you have, like this book that I want to put together, it may never come to fruition, but I'm going to push like hell to try to get it done because I want my family to be able to share what my outlook on what I'm seeing
Yeah.
is. I can explain it to them. I can show them a few of my pictures, but I want to put it all together. A couple years ago, I put together books for them at Christmas of the maternal side of their family and went through the like the ancestry and with all the photographs of their grandparents and their great grandparents and going back to great great grandparents. I have a photograph of my great grandfather giving my great grandfather a haircut. I have a photograph of that.
Wow.
So I try to include that kind of thing for them. And I think it's really important to pass that kind of history down. I told stories about my grandparents who lived in Southport and on their farm. My grandfather had he was an architect and he had designed and built their home that they lived in. It burned to the ground. And I told that whole story. That happened when I was probably 10 years old. So I want to do that kind of a book just for them. But if anybody else would like to have a copy, I'd like to be able to do that. I'd like to be able to give somebody else a copy.
Yeah.
Or maybe sell a few and give the money to the church.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like following your dreams, and when those things happen, those pings that you get, it sounds like you knew from a young age that you were really into the beauty of nature, right? And
Oh, I
you're
was.
full circle back here, right?
Yeah,
Of wanting to share
yeah,
that. That's beautiful.
absolutely.
That and storytelling. It sounds like, the web of the story you've told is really your grandmother really instilled in you, and she was a great storyteller.
Yes,
And
she
that
was.
storytelling has maintained to be a really important aspect of your life, right? And being able to tell us. So you wanted to give them a book and tell stories earlier in
Right.
your motherhood and grandmotherhood, and then now you're really telling a whole different spiritual
I am.
Nate
I,
and how this is all connected,
yeah,
right? And
right.
spirituality, and this is God. This is the manifestation of. You can see God in everything. I believe that, right? I think God is in everything. So now you're telling that story and want that story to live on past the time you have here.
My grandmother, I think I alluded to the fact that she was very tall. She was almost 6 foot tall, and for she was ahead of her time. She actually was the first woman to run for political office in Indianapolis during, well, it would have been in the 30s or 40s,
Yeah.
and she got it. She won.
Wow.
And then she was one of the first matrons at the School of the Ozarks.
Wow.
So, and she got a college education, and that was way before women went to college.
Yeah.
So she was a remarkable woman.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Way ahead of her time.
Way ahead of
what
her
a great
time.
mentor to have in your world as
Absolutely.
as an early woman, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Was there any other women along the way that you felt like really shaped who you were, or that you really were inspired by?
Well, my mother was another one. I mean, she was a very strong woman too, and she actually, my sister was born out of wedlock, and that was a big.
That was a no-no.
That was a
Yeah.
big no-no at the time. She was 9 years older than I, so she would have been born in 1928. 1928, and she went to Missouri and lived in a log cabin in the mountains. And I have a picture of her standing on the front porch. She was 18, standing on the front porch of that cabin with a rifle in her hand and a dog next to her. And she would tell stories about shooting squirrels for dinner.
Wow.
And had to ride down the hill on a horse to get water. So
that's where she went to go have this baby so that nobody could take the baby away.
Yes. Yeah. So she was a strong woman too. And she was very creative also. So.
But her parents never disowned her for all of that.
No, no,
like that. She was
not
still
at all.
supported in her immediate family, just societal.
Yeah, right. No.
Not a lot of rights back then for women to do much of anything without a husband.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
So, I have tried to find the father, and I know his name was McEwitt, and I have traced him, and they got a marriage license, but I never could find any evidence of a wedding or a marriage. So I'm pretty sure that she got pregnant and it was out of wedlock.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Strong women in your family.
Yeah.
That
absolutely.
continues through you, that's for sure.
I hope.
I don't know that anybody would argue that at this point.
No.
Thank you.
Nope, not at all.
I'd like to say something about my faith.
Yeah.
This is going to sound off the wall and unbelievable, but I have heard the voice of God. When I was, I think, 79, I was in my 50s, and I had just met a young woman at Good Samaritan Church, which is where my old pastor was. And I had just met this woman, and she was young, and she had a young family, and I liked her, but we weren't friends. And I'm telling you the story for a reason. I'll get to it in a minute. And she she got cancer. It was some kind of female cancer. I don't know whether it was uterine or what it was, cervical or whatever. And it just, I was devastated by that diagnosis because she was young and she had a family, and I was just so worried about her, so concerned about her. And I woke up in the middle of the night one night thinking about her and worrying about her and praying for her, and I couldn't go back to sleep. So I got up and I went downstairs to my kitchen and sat at my kitchen table, opened my Bible, and I wasn't reading the Bible. I just had it open and I was crying uncontrollably and praying for this woman. All of a sudden, I hear this voice in my ear that said, "If I could heal Lazarus and Dorcas, even though they were dead, don't you think I can do the same for those who are yet alive?"
Wow.
And I thought, who's Dorcas?
Yeah.
I never heard of Dorcas.
Yeah.
I told you I didn't go to church.
Yeah.
So I looked up in the Bible, and Dorcas was a woman who was a seamstress, well known in the village, and she passed away. And Paul happened to be nearby, and the villagers knew that he could probably do something for her, so they called him in, and he brought her back to life. She was a seamstress. The lady I was praying for is a seamstress,
Wow.
and she's alive today.
That's incredible.
The reason I tell that story is because this past Sunday, one of our young ministers in our church told a story about when he was a young man and hadn't decided what he was going to do. He had just joined the Navy, and he was awakened in the middle of the night with a voice that said in his ear, "You need to go into the ministry." And I approached him afterwards and I said, "Did you really hear the voice?" And he said, "I did." So it was affirmation to me that God still speaks to us, even today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's
That's
incredible.
awesome. Yeah.
I think we talk about this a lot within our groups, and just being available to listen to the messages you're supposed to receive. And sometimes we busy ourselves with a million things, right? To distract ourselves or to not have that inner turmoil, right? So we make it impossible to listen
Yeah, exactly.
to what's meant for us. So
Exactly.
I love that you were able to just listen, receive that message.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really
I'm
wasn't.
sure not. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But there's something about that stillness and concentrating, whether you want to call it meditation or prayer, just that like ability to just feel how you feel and be available for any messages that you're getting. And that's beautiful.
We talk about this all the time. I think there's some very obvious ones like that where there's a a real thing, and I think there's subtleties, like the way you're being guided, what shows up in your world, who shows up in your world, that is meant to be, right? Like there's something there that is signs if you really get still and pay attention. And I think sometimes the stillness is the only place that you really notice the patterns, the messaging, the aha moments that you're like, oh wait, I've taken time now to really think about this XYZ and sit in that for a little while, and this is just kind of dawned upon me. And I don't know that it's always dawning upon us as much as we really just start to understand what's the messaging that's kind of being shared with us. And I always say, listen, the universe is always communicating to you, God's always communicating to you. He'll tap you on the shoulder, and then he brings a 2x4, right?
Exactly.
You're not listening, right?
Exactly.
So sometimes the bad things that happen to us is the 2x4, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe God's a cat and just smacks you across
the face.
So you listen, So
did you tell everybody?
Yeah,
exactly. I'm nervous to share that my cat is getting aggressive in her older age, but my cat did slap me across the face with her paw yesterday.
She's just being really assertive about what she wants.
She was like, I was trying to tell you and you were ignoring me. So here's a paw for the face, lady.
Yeah.
So
Pay attention.
pay attention.
Well, they say that cats bring mice to you that they've killed to teach you how to catch your food.
Yeah. I love cats so much. They say that dogs know like that you're their owner, right? Like you're the master and they want to please you. Cats think that you're just bad cats.
Yeah.
They think that you're bad at being a cat.
So they're trying to teach you.
They're trying to teach you things.
They're not gifting it to you like a dog would. No.
They're like, hey, you're so dumb. You left this house and you came back without any food? What are you doing?
No, you got out of here and you didn't bring us
any
any food?
Like, and that's
you're not paying attention to me?
Yeah. I mean, and they also say cats, their purring is so healing, and that if they lay on your chest, like when you don't feel well or something's wrong, they purr really heavy and deep to try to
they do
calm you. And they're just, I think they're such mystical creatures.
They're literally like tuning forks.
Yeah,
like they do have a tuning fork vibration quality. Yeah,
my one really obese cat. If I, in the middle of the night, I'll obviously be sleeping. Suddenly he gets worried that I haven't moved for too long. And he will scream meow until I wake up. And I wake up and it's like, he's like, okay, great. You're not dead as you were. And he'll leave. He's terrified that this was it for him.
Or
and it's
his opportunity to eat your face. We're not sure. He's a hungry boy. Big boy. So.
My female cat wakes me up in the middle of the night, but not to see if I'm still alive, but to get up and get her a treat.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
At 3:30 in the morning.
No, why?
And I do.
She's like, yes, why do you think I do this every night?
I've trained her well.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
In my state, I would never get to sleep. I'd be like,
well, I actually get a cup of coffee at that hour of the morning and drink my coffee and then go back to sleep.
Oh boy.
I know.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Crazy.
If I have coffee, that's it for me for the day. We're up.
Amateur hour over here.
Definitely. Sensitive Sally, for sure.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you're like, I want to make sure I share this today?
You want to hear about my Outward Bound trip?
Yes, I would love that.
First of all, tell people what that is.
Outward Bound was a program that was developed in England in World War II to teach English youth how to survive if they were during the war, if they were separated from their family or they had to leave their home and they were on their own, they could survive in the cold, cruel world. And so Outward Bound has come to the United States with different types of outdoor experiences, and they're all meant to teach you outdoor skills to stay alive. Okay.
Are they still in operation today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, my granddaughter won a, not for Outward Bound, but an Outward Bound type trip, won a scholarship to go to Alaska this past summer for a month.
That's cool.
Wow.
And she loved it, absolutely loved it. But my experience was in northern Minnesota in the middle of winter up near International Falls in the Boundary Waters area. And it was snowshoeing and skiing, cross-country skiing, and what was the other one? Dog sledding.
Never guessed that.
Yeah. And I was out for 10 days, and it was 32 below 3 nights that we were out, and we were not in tents. We were on pads, ground cloths and pads, and 2 sleeping bags, one inside another, and then a snowfly over us, but no tents.
Oh my God.
And it was the most intense physical thing I've ever done in my life, but it was so rewarding. And I learned all kinds of things, like how to secure a tent stake when you're not pounding a stake into the ground.
Yeah.
Snow that's underneath on the bottom is colder than the snow on top. So if you take the rope from the the fly or the tent or whatever, and put it on the ground and scoop snow from underneath and put it on top of the warm snow on top. It melts and forms ice and holds the rope tight.
It's a good survival tip, seriously. Like, that's a good survival tip, seriously.
Well,
Like,
that's what Outward Bound is.
yeah.
We had one 24-hour period where we were on our own, and we had to cook our meals, and I had to...
All by yourself, just one singular. You were all separated, so you
All
were all
separated.
single. Yeah,
All
for 24
single.
hours.
Yeah, for 24 hours. And we had whistles. If we got into trouble, we could whistle for help and somebody would hear us. But we didn't know where anybody was.
Right.
So
it's terrifying.
I went up. We always built our fires on the river. And you had layers of logs that you would lay down this way and then crosswise, so that you built the fire on top of that. And then when it burned down, and in the spring, when the ice melted, then the logs that were burned would go to the bottom of the river, and there'd be no trace of where you were.
Yeah.
So I picked a camp. Well, they dropped me off at where I was supposed to stay, and there was a hill that went down to the river, and then up on top of the hill there were some dead trees. So I had a little saw, and I went up and I cut down one of those trees and drug it down and cut it up and did my platform and built my little fire. And there was a big boulder, which is where I put a tarp over this boulder and made my sleeping bag under there, and I was protected from the wind. But I had my fire, and I fixed my dinner, and I was ready to go to bed. And I climbed in my sleeping bag, and it was night, and I lay there and I shook. It was so cold. We had mummy bags, and I could not do this. Just have my nose sticking out.
Right.
So I had the hood of the sleeping bag down, and then I just put my jacket over my face.
Yeah.
And what I'd forgotten was I had perspired so in cutting the tree down and dragging it down, and all the physical effort that I did. I was perspiring and I was wet, and I was hypothermic.
Yeah.
So I came pretty
Real
close to...
Yeah. Wow.
So,
like, isn't that crazy that that's one of the, like, I obviously have done nothing like that ever. But I'm really into hiking. I read a lot of hiking books, and it's always interesting to hear the most dangerous thing while hiking, especially up mountains, is just that you get sweaty and not realize it. And then you're in these really extreme cold temperatures. You might have started off on a sunny day in a jacket.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get to a point in that dampness can cause you to get hypothermia.
Absolutely.
So quickly.
Right.
Very quickly.
Plus, the temperature on the mountains change so fast. Like,
yeah.
If a rainstorm comes, we ran into that when we were out west and up in the in not only Zion National Park, but when we went out to Yellowstone. Like, you're way up high and it's sunny and it's beautiful, but as soon as a rainstorm hits,
oh yeah,
it is freezing suddenly, and you're in next to nothing, and now you're wet. And I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, like you don't give it credence until you experience it fully.
Exactly.
Like, how cold can it get? It's 90 degrees today. It's
nice and sunny.
Yeah, and then suddenly you're like, oh my god, I'm frozen.
You really have to be careful of that and prepare.
So you said you trained for a year for this event,
did.
right?
I did.
Yeah. What was your training like for that? Did it give you things to practice?
Well, they said to hike a lot.
Yeah.
And we carried 50 pounds of gear on our backs.
Right.
So I did that and hiked with that kind of weight on my back, and got used to it. So
yeah.
But even so, I was the oldest in the group. There were 7 of us. They called it a brigade, and there were 7 of us. And the whole idea was to build community again, and camaraderie, and to help each other. And I was in charge of driving the dogs one day, and I tipped the sled over, and the sled had all of our cooking gear and the cook tent and all of that. And I broke down. I started sobbing, and it was, I felt so inadequate to continue. And the guide who was with Outward Bound approached me and he said, every single one of you has had the same experience of feeling inadequate, and
Yeah.
buck up, you're fine.
Yeah. There's something about people who spend a lot of time in nature, and whether it be hiking or whatever that is, it's the kindness and the support I feel like that happens in that community
Mhm.
is so special. I know I've talked about this before, but you always meet hikers who talk about the kindness of other hikers on the trail and just that we're all out here together. We're going to get through it together. We're going to help each other together. It's just so
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Truly.
What decided, what 55-year-old or however old you were, it's like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna spend 10 days in sub-freezing -32-degree weather, pulling equipment and testing myself to be the most extreme, the bounds of what I can do. What made you
I
decide
was
to do
married
that?
young. I was a young mother, and I had raised 3 sons, and I had been a wife and a mother. I wanted to find out what was inside me. I had lost me.
I love that.
So that's
This
why
was
I
all
did
about
it.
self-discovery, about
Mhm.
who's Jackie past all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
That's
found
awesome.
out.
What did you find? What was like your takeaways from that about your own, about what did you learn about yourself in that
Well,
10 days?
as I said, I never cross-country skied before. And in Outward Bound, they always have a final challenge. And you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Or you can do part of it. You can make a race out of it. You can, just participate. So the final challenge for our group was a 9-mile cross-country ski across ups and downs and across the frozen river and all through the woods and all kinds of things. And so some in my brigade decided to race, and I decided just to finish. And I did. I finished, and I was dead last. I was the last one in, but I finished.
You did it.
And by gosh, I felt pretty damn good about myself.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
Pretty damn good.
Was there anybody in your brigade that decided not to do it at all?
No, they all did
Everybody did
Wow.
it. Yeah.
Everybody did it.
Yeah.
And that was the final. Well, we went home the next day.
Yeah.
And that night they had this was the base camp, and we actually had a cabin to sleep in that night. And there was a sauna there.
Oh.
And they had cut a hole in the ice in the river.
Mm.
And we did the sauna thing and then jumped in the hole in the ice in the river. And it was really cool. And we went back with sub-zero weather without coats on.
Yeah.
That it was we were just glowing from that whole experience. But anyway, when I went to a hotel then before I went home. I think I caught a bus to go home. And I hadn't taken my jeans off or my pants off the whole time I was out. I had changed my underwear, I think, but once.
That's what you do in the wilderness. That's what you do in the wilderness.
Oh, it's -32?
Yeah, keep it on.
Oh,
I
that's the
had
last thing I'm going to do is take off my clothes.
boils all over my thighs from where my pants had rubbed on my thighs. So that took a while to get over.
Well, honestly, with that kind of condition out there, that's the worst that happens.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
So,
yeah, I just find that really fascinating. Like, was there anybody secretly coming and checking on you? Like, how did they protect their, I'm assuming you signed some sort of waiver that if I die on this outing, it's all me, right? It's on me. But you're by yourself for 24 hours, I guess. But if you
I had a whistle. If I felt like I was in serious trouble, I could blow the whistle and they would hear me and come and help me. But I didn't recognize at the time
that you were that hypothermic.
No.
That's my point, though, is like maybe you don't know and you fall asleep and you're really hypothermic and die of hypothermia in your sleep.
Yeah.
By the way, it wouldn't you? That's how that would have gone down.
Mm-hmm.
I
know.
Like, I think about that now as a business, because this is a business. Like, you pay to go have this experience with these people, right? They have some
waivers,
liability.
baby, waivers.
They have a waiver. Like, how many people have you lost on the mountain?
There's, I don't know if you've watched those movies like Everest and the mountain climbing movies.
Yes.
Have you ever watched Alone?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
terrifying.
It's that sort of thing.
And that what's crazy about all of that is because we're so far removed from nature. I just listened to this podcast the other day about air conditioning and like the whole thing air conditioning has done to our society and not being able to regulate our own temperatures.
Yeah, right.
Seriously. And like, because there is no normal temperature because everybody, like, there's just so much about our removal from nature and I need to be comfortable that when these people decide, we're looking at one of these people correct here, decide like, hey, I want to go do this thing. It's an experience that they know otherwise they're never going to get. We've removed all of these discomforts from our life and are so disconnected from how to survive in the elements.
Exactly.
That people are willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
Truly.
Well, we have hot water heaters. So hot showers are always a thing. You never get a cold shower. So, that there's a whole subset of people now that are doing saunas and cold plunge. It's exactly what you were describing there, is that there was a hole in the river and you jumped in and, and that's,
roll in the snow.
Or roll in the snow. Like it's something that causes you to, to take a deep breath. And there's a whole culture of people that are doing that now. It's becoming very popular, but we're having to give ourselves that experience because we're not getting it normally.
Right.
Right.
And it's I fear for our youth because they are so pampered and they are so protected and they are so helicoptered by their parents and they don't have those experiences of really
figuring it out,
living on the edge.
Yeah.
Basically, out in nature.
Yeah. I hope I have some hope for our youth. I do feel like that they are a group that, unlike Gen Xers, I think millennials are a little better, but I think even this younger generation has a real, although they're pampered, I think they're, because of their exposure on the internet, are some of the most educated, the generations, vastly educated, worldly educated,
right? Yeah,
planetarily educated, that is going to give a crap about our planet and about nature, and hopefully make some changes in what we're doing to really protect Mother Nature in a way that our generations has not done real effectively, and it started with your generation and it's continued with ours, and I have real hope. I'm real hopeful that they're going to turn this around, because as much as as we've demonstrated today that technology is not my thing, I do feel like the internet has gained them a lot of knowledge and a lot of their exposure to a lot of things that comes with some negativity as well. I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's made them grow up faster. They're exposed to sex. They're exposed to violence. They're exposed to, a lot of things, stuff, right? That's a downside of all of that. But the plus side of that is that they do get to see where all these clothes end up on Ghana's beaches. They get to see that, that somebody is reporting that this person is, is made to feel small, and this whole genre of people is discounted, and this whole, like, they get to see if that sometimes in our little microcosms we don't get to experience that, right? We don't get to experience what the downflow of our behavior is causing another person or another group, or what my family unit believed may not be what I feel like in my heart is true, but I don't have any exposure to anything other than this. Now they do. They get a whole lot of exposure to a whole lot of different things,
That's
so
true.
I have hope. Every generation, right, is like, they've got it. They're soft, right? They've got it easy, like that continues to be the case, right? Like I know that my generation was way better off than yours, and your generation is better off than mine. And we have 3 generations sitting here. We're not none from the same, generational gap. So it's cool to think that. And yes, but they also are going to have artificial intelligence that we never had. A 2-year-old that knows how to work an iPad, like
I know.
that took us years when it came out to really master the thing. I'm going to speak for myself.
There's an app called All Trails. Okay. And so when you go on a hike, you can download your map on your phone so that if you don't have any service on the middle of a mountain, you still have it downloaded. So you can still follow the trail that you're on, right? Mm-hmm. So I like to pretend that I am grittier than other people. And I'm like, I can do anything. I love doing crazy things, So my sister-in-law and I decided to go on a hike in New York, upstate New York. And I'm like,
recently. This is the last week.
This is like this year.
Yeah.
I'm telling on myself this year. Yeah. And I hike a lot. So I'm not worried about the hike, the physical part of the hike, right? Oh, but unfortunately, on All Trails, I went to download the map. People can review the trail and tell you, hey, this is really muddy right now, or hey, like stay away from this bridge, it's out.
Well, that's
so
a good thing.
Yeah, it's great. So you're educating other people who are about to take that trail.
Yeah.
And you can see the timestamp. So I can see, oh, that was a year ago. It's probably fine. Or this was yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, I go to that app and people have been posting that whole week about spottings of black bears.
Okay.
So suddenly your girl is not so confident about any of this because I think to myself, I hike in Ohio. What's a deer going to run me down? You know what I mean? Like a raccoon's going to come
there
at me.
There are bears here too.
Yes, but not in Columbus Metro Parks, like, don't tell me this, Jackie. I can't go.
I can't
I'm seeing all these people reporting these black bears, and I thought, no, Amanda, you are soft. Like, the thought of a bear in the first hour of that hike, I was just looking at every tree I could take in with my eyes because that's where people saw them, was up in the trees. And I was like, wow, this is a good reminder that I really have no true experience like being outdoorsy.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can fool yourself sometimes.
I'm enjoying my hikes, but in the metro parks in Columbus City.
So,
did you have hair spray or a bell or anything with you?
Jackie, I had nothing but my backpack and a first aid kit because it didn't even occur to me. Right. And of course they're like, it was a well-traveled path. People are like, oh, they ran away when they heard you, whatever. But luckily my sister-in-law brought her dog. And so I thought, Solomon, you poodle, you better say something if you see something, because I'm not going down. I'll run. So
I think that's fascinating, Jackie. I would like to believe, like you, that I would like to do hard things.
So you're out there.
But I think that that's part of, that they say, do something you would never normally do once a year. Mm. And then you have this amazing strand of things that you've never done before. And it doesn't always have to be, face negative 30 degree weather. But it might be start a garden. It might be learn how to do this. It might be, learn how to do hard things. All of those things are hard, by the way.
Or learn a foreign language or
anything. Keep your brain moving in that direction of finding what sparks joy. And here you had no idea that this iPhone was going to bring you such joy.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Hidden in what seemed like a device that your kids were going to bother you with. You know what I mean? Like grandkids. I'm just kidding. But,
and I will say, looking at you have an iPad here. You have an Apple Watch on your wrist and an iPhone. Mm-hmm. I am impressed. Thank you so much, Jackie. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
We want to have you back.
Of course.
Especially when
the book launches.
I told everything there was to tell.
Listen, the book launching. Now we're going to come back and talk about the book
Yeah.
I think that you'd be surprised
Yeah. True.
at how many people would really resonate with your work. These are stunning.
Thank you.
They are
Truly.
stunning. I
Yeah.
mean, we would absolutely be 100% thrilled to have these here in the barn.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
for sure. And
I think some of them are good. Certainly they're not all good, but some of them I'm really proud of.
yeah.
Well, Jackie, we will definitely have you back to talk about the book when the time comes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And other than that, please make sure you're giving us a follow on Facebook and Instagram.
Absolutely.
Also, please make sure you're subscribing to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Okay.
Jackie, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're
I enjoyed myself.
an incredible human. You have an amazing story, and
Thank you.
we can't wait to talk to you again.
Okay.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Love you.
Here we are there. Here we are there. You are so